on earth are you doing?
Well, I was hoping that you'd start dancing, sir.
You know I don't dance, Cotton.
Well, I was hoping that maybe you'd picked up some new moves for Master Rank.
Get out.
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, today is the day for celebrating the monsters who have made it through Monster Hunter World and come out to the other side of Iceborne in their full Master Rank glory. With all of the totally new monsters, from the completely new monsters all the way down to the subspecies and variants, and even the returning old monsters, the old guard from Base World gets sort of swept under the rug, which the Guiding Land does help with, but how many of you could actually tell me what Radda's Master Rank changes, for example? And that is the exact reason why today I'm going to be bringing you all on a magical journey through the Master Rank changes of all returning Base World monsters, alphabetically, because that is both neat and fun.
F is for friends who do stuff together.
All the way from Anjanath to Ergun, though I will be leaving 3 of them out to talk about afterwards for reasons that shall be explained in due time. Starting off with Anjanath then, he gains a new fire move, which is great as those generally are his most threatening and interesting moves, and this new one is no exception, especially as the line of fire that comes out is actually quite formidable, and it comes attached to a bit of forward momentum on the side of the Anjanath himself. Diablo gains the ability to combo out of all of his digging attacks a lot more efficiently, meaning he is totally capable of beginning a new attack while you are still on the floor from the Superman dive that you just used to dodge his legendary digging attack beforehand. Black Diablo gains the same ability, however, due to her slightly different digging option, she will occasionally just combo the delayed burst dig attack with itself over and over and over again. On top of this, Black Diablos also has an attack sort of reminiscent of Bloodbath Diablos from Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, where she lets out a blood-curdling roar and then charges ridiculously fast and for a very large portion of damage if she happens to hit you as well. Great Juros gains the ability to call an absolute ton of little Juros out to join him, which with most small monsters would just be a slight inconvenience. But the little Juros with their not so little paralyzing fangs, they can be a complete nightmare sometimes. However, that said, if you happen to get a Great Juros in the same zone as a different monster that is also your target, it is extremely likely that that monster will be paralyzed before they can even leave the zone. These guys are actually quite potent against all creatures.
You're so wise. But like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
Great Jagrest coming on up in here with essentially just his greatest Jagrest moveset. He gains a few more Pooky based attacks where he fires quite large chunks of meat at you, and as gross as this attack is, it does genuinely change the feel and pace of the fight when he's recently eaten, so you know what, for what it's worth, I really do like this change. Juratotis pulls out a surprisingly aesthetically pleasing new attack. He does use this one quite frequently, and it consists of him sort of hopping back and forth in a line, shooting out bits of mud as he goes. This attack isn't crazy effective or anything like that, but it adds some depth to his moveset, and honestly I think it just looks great, which is an unusual thing to say about anything even remotely related to this muddy fish. Okay, that's a bit of a lie. I do think he looks sort of cute in a super derpy way, but he still does anger me as a creature, so it's not okay. Kieran's been spending a lot of time in the schoolyard learning about Tic Tac Toe, as he is now capable of firing his lightning lines in cross formations, which unsurprisingly create an even larger dangerous area in the fight. It's an effective change, and I like it. Kuliaku's whole fight is actually reasonably different, as the rock that he normally digs up to use as both a shield and a weapon is now actually a blast rock. That's right, his rock attacks now explode, and it is sort of a detriment to him too, and that of course does fit his personality. It's so perfect, and honestly I love it, and it makes sense that he did have to make an upgrade. After all, the Admiral is making moves on his rock carrying turf. Kushala Daora shows off his unrivaled control of wind by changing the entire way his tornadoes work, and I'm not entirely sure whether I like or dislike this one quite yet, but now Kushala will put down an initial tornado which sort of functions as a main pillar of his attacks. Any tornadoes that he makes for a short time afterwards will then slowly move towards that first tornado, they will merge with it, and the whole thing will expand, get real aggressive for a moment, then it'll go back down to just being the one main tornado. See, the thing about this is, yes, now we have moving tornadoes and expanding tornadoes. However, what this means is you shouldn't get stuck in a zone with like 5 tornadoes surrounding you anymore, because they literally clean themselves up in Master Rank. So, you know, it's not that bad. And on top of this, it does look quite neat.
Really, 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 ridiculously good looking.
Leviathan comes on up and out with a frontal cone lava spew. This one is pretty simple, and I have had some fights where he used this attack non-stop, but I've also had some fights where he just straight up didn't use it at all. I don't think this attack has a massive impact on his fight as a whole, to be completely honest. However, I do think that it looks nice, and it's always hard to complain about an attack that looks nice and doesn't make a fight actively worse, right? Clun Astra, however, is an absolute nightmare. Before even mentioning the specific new attack, I'm sure any of you who have experienced Master Rank Clun Astra understand what I mean when I say that her damage values are absolutely insane, especially her supernova with all of its melting heat damage, and there it is. Clun Astra's new attack is a frontal cone heat damage attack, almost like a tiny little version of her own supernova, which is actually, unsurprisingly quite potent.
What about breakfast?
I've already had it.
We've had one, yes. What about second breakfast?
Renko Dogrun, upon having a bite to eat, would get all glowy veined and heated and start steaming out of the mouth and enter a sort of secondary state where he became a fair bit faster and therefore deadlier. Master Renko Dogrun just straight up starts the quest in this state every time and stays in it for his entire life. From a lore perspective, I do sort of miss that this was a rare occurrence to see during a fight before. However, it does make the fight more fun as a whole, and he does look fantastic like this. Pulu Moo brings out the big guns after learning a little lesson from RageGaming, pulling off his classic pinball move better than the Manic Monkey ever has, doing combos that include this attack up to 4 times in a row. I actually really want to talk about this one for a moment because I think it has one of the biggest impacts on the fight as a whole of any of the Master Rank attacks. I know, it seems silly, and for Pulu Moo of all monsters, but this attack and Pulu Moo's tendency to combo it makes it really hard for the slower weapon to the game to pull off any sort of combo, which totally changes up the gameplay of this hunt for a fair number of the hunters out there, and I just consider that, really cool. Pooky, well, how should I say this? Master Rank Pooky has a bit of a larger gas tank installed. His tail exhalations no longer instantly consume all of his tail poison, and instead he is capable of not only doing this attack multiple times after only eating once, but multiple times in quick succession.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Radda's change is actually a relatively subtle one, as he starts to spew out a few more bone-based projectiles, specifically in this move where he drags his chin across the floor. This now fires out a massive cone of projectiles on both movements that are actually sort of dangerous. Rathian gains his classic aerial triple fireball. This move is pretty vanilla, very simple and basic, but it is nice to see it, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. Azure Rathian, however, gains an attack much closer to his big brother Silver Rathian, as he has a whole new large aerial fireball attack. I found this attack to be surprisingly fast, personally, and I've even been hit by it a few more times than I'd like to admit. Rathian gains a large ground fireball, though still nothing close to gold Rathian levels, and pink Rathian gains the same fireball. Ostra takes a page out of his own Arch-Tempered book, and now has the face-cuddled explosion in Master Rank, which in my opinion significantly changes the Ostra fight, and his face and armpit area are normally the safe place, where you can sit as a melee weapon and do tons of damage, but with this attack in his moveset in Master Rank, it just becomes that bit less possible to sit there safely. Ostra also gains a sort of lava river attack that is just absolutely fucking gorgeous, but can totally melt through shields of all kind and just your health bar if you're not careful. It's very similar to a Call to Wrath attack actually, and it's very neat. Chichiku really has upped his game in Master Rank, as now he is capable of moving during the wind up to his flashes. In high rank he would sort of count into the attack a cool animation and warning that gave you a little 3, 2, 1, but now after each of those little beats he can jump to the side to re-aim the attack if he chooses to, though sometimes he is already in the perfect position to take a picture of the entire class of Shamos.
Me?
Ergun has easily one of the most immediately noticeable changes, as if he rolls over one of his own explosive rocks, he will now essentially turn into a rolling wheel of fire, which just looks badass as hell, and past the visuals of the attack, it actually adds a fair bit to the fight too, as now every time he starts one of his roll attacks, he will also start a chain that just detonates all of the rocks that he sends out as well, thus creating an extra area of effect blast around him every time he does that, and just making that attack just that tiny bit more effective, and that matters. Now, you may have noticed by this point that 3 monsters haven't been on this list, those 3 being Dodogama, Baroth, and Legiana. I fought these 3 a ton trying to work out what is different, but honestly, I haven't noticed anything. However, knowing the RNG aspect of Monster Hunter, I am simply going to label these 3 monsters as if there is anything new in Master Rank, it is either incredibly subtle or rare to have happen, and I just haven't seen it personally. Alright everyone, I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and these have been all of our brand new Master Rank moves for the base world monsters. Personally, I'm a big fan of them. I think most of them add just the right amount of extra depth to the movesets, and they all look pretty good too. Do you like the moves that these monsters got? Are there any moves that you wish were just plain removed from them instead? Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. This is the brand new outro to tell you all the things that you do that we love, so let's start with something simple and say, oh, we love your eyes. When they're watching us play video games, we make a bunch of jokes that are kinda lame, or when they gaze upon our failures as we try to kill the monsters or important news about the kingdom Animalia. Rage, Continent, Hollow, we're all here, talking about the things you want to hear, so if you want to be the first to hear, like and subscribe and the bell and we'll cheer. Some of you are patrons even though we are all the noobs and you're the pros, there's nothing we can do to thank you. No, really, there's nothing we could possibly do. Goodbye.